Good morning. Hello, everybody. Just setting up what I need to for Instagram to go dually live, and we will get everything started. All right. So, without further ado, my name is Ari Gonzalez, and this is my podcast, Run It Back, where we talk about music industry news. We have a lot to cover, but I'm trying to get everything done within, I would say, 30, 45 minutes because I have some things that I need to get to pretty early in the day. But as per usual, we will be starting out with new music. I always, kind of start this by saying it's impossible for me to find every single song that has been released in this past week. The most interesting statistic I can give you on that is that there are 60,000 songs uploaded to Spotify alone every single day. So it's a lot of music to get through that I physically cannot. But if you're interested in me, talking about your music, definitely send it over. Never hesitate to. I'm a pretty nice person, I swear. But with that said, we have mainly albums to get through today, which is super cool. I'm sure most of you know Kanye West will be releasing Donda in 2 days through his STEM player. We could talk about that a little bit since I did post about it on Twitter and on here a little bit. What Kanye is doing is called a premium product, a premium release. And he's not the first to do it, which is kind of what gives me the confusion on all of the controversy about it. A premium product is something that is priced higher, that is not just the music. It is usually accompanied by a physical product that is luxury or high scale. The STEM player is a functional piece of equipment. It is not just a speaker. It is something that can be used not just by producers, but by lovers of music to kind of dissect the music that they listen to. So, like I said, he's not the first to do this. There have been plenty of artists who have released their full catalogs on specific speakers that are branded towards whether it be a band or a solo artist. So he's just doing it in his own way. And I think it's honestly quite revolutionary to only have it on his personal equipment. And as far as I've seen, you actually do not need to purchase the STEM player. He also has a streaming service attached to it that you'll be able to listen to Donda 2 on. But it brings up an interesting conversation about streaming in general, the climate that it has brung, and the dichotomy between the revenue that it brings the industry itself and the revenue that it brings the artists who utilize the platforms. As we all know, it is very hard to survive off of streaming. It's possible to do, but it's very you have to utilize your momentum in streaming and the momentum that you get in a fan base on that realm to market other things like physical music, physical merchandise, and shows. I'm sure that you guys know a little bit about the fact that shows, the live music industry is the way that the industry makes the most money in general. So I think in terms of streaming, it's about using that leverage to market the other things that you can do that will bring you a much higher profit margin. With that being said, I'm going to move on to the next release that we have. Big Crit released Digital Roses Don't Die. And once again, these are all albums that you guys can go ahead and check out. Vic Mensa with Vino Valentino. Deontay Hitchcock with Everyday the 14th. Currency and Alchemist, I've heard a little bit about this with The Continuance. Seda Baby with Bartier Bounty 3. Ravina with Asha's Awakening. She has been in the news quite a bit. She recently signed a deal with, I believe, Warner. I could be lying to you right now, though. But she's an interesting gal, that's for sure. She makes some pretty cool music, though. And then we have Pee Wee Longway with Longway Recipe. So if you're interested in any of that, go ahead and check it out. As per usual, all of the links to the stories about this, when it comes to the music, the stories will also have links to the Spotify playlist or albums themselves. All in, well, actually, it's not right now. In the links in my bio, it will be in probably about 30-45 minutes. But if you want to go and find them now, go ahead over to the YouTube live stream where the links are already there. Anyways, I'm going to move on to my likes of the week. So this is something new that I've been doing with this podcast, talking about stories that I personally enjoy that don't necessarily fit into the categories that I have kind of set for this podcast. So first, I talked about this a little bit in my last podcast. Eric Adams, who is the mayor of New York City, declared war on drill music, which was interesting. And this was in a complex article, more of an opinion piece on that situation in general. And what they said, Adams' characterization of drill, a black art scene, as the cause of violence, is his chance to offset cries to defund the police and further theorize cops' necessity. So if you know me, I hate cops. I hate cop apologists, and I don't like bootlickers. So I really enjoyed this piece of information and this opinion in general, and the way that they described this. Drill is not the reason, in my opinion. I'll say that. Here we go with the poor connection. In my opinion, drill is not the reason for crime. All it is a side effect of it, right? Because art is a reflection of life. If these things weren't already happening in New York City and across the country, there wouldn't be music made about it. Point blank, period. And for the mayor of New York City to blame an entire genre, as they said, it's a way to deflect, not only, how do I want to say this? It's a way to deflect the actual problems. It's a way to try to combat the wants and the needs of the community in general and shift blame, essentially. So and I really enjoyed him saying that. And that is more of like a political thing that I'm talking about, but it has to do with music, and I think it's very important. Moving on, we have a Baltimore music education program called Beats Not Bullets will be recognized at South by Southwest next month. And the program teaches students the ins and outs of the music industry, from the performing to the technical side and even networking. So this is something that I think is super amazing and important. I haven't talked about this too much because it's kind of, I'm not there yet. But I definitely see my personal success, and the capital that hopefully I'll be able to raise in the future, as a stepping stone towards creating programs like that. Of course, we all want our own happiness, our own success, our own wealth, or whatever. But if you're not using it to kind of transfer that to other people who need it, I think you kind of wasted it. I think you wasted your time. So I love to hear about that. Definitely go check them out. If you have the money to go donate, go share what they're doing. Very awesome stuff and very needed, very needed. Third on the My Like section is Vamper, a social and professional talent marketing place, helps creatives find people to collaborate with, create music, and monetize their work. The Vamper app is home to over 1.1 million users in more than 190 countries and is facilitating close to 7 million connections worldwide. With the launch of Vamper Publishing and Vamper Pro, the company now represents over 50,000 songs for sync opportunities. So I'm not sure what aggregators you guys use. If you have the ability to pitch to music supervisors, if that's something that your manager does, if you have those connections to do that. But this is a great opportunity and a great way to do that on a platform that isn't huge yet, but is, 1.1 billion users is a lot of people. So you definitely still have the opportunity to somewhat get in early on something that is already doing great things. So definitely go check Vamper out. That is VAMPR. Go check them out. Go see if you're interested. Something that I talk about in the workshops that I host later on when we start talking about marketing is that one of the take homes that I give you is to find a platform that you haven't used already to start using. I think Vamper would be a great option for that. So if you're mainly using YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter, those are essentially the big three. That's great, but we want to start getting you into different markets because, in truth, they are not the only social media platforms. There are plenty of other communities that have a large amount of people that you can market to that are extremely niche. So definitely do more research, but Vamper is a great option. Finally, we're getting into a little bit more political stuff. Meek Mill refutes Lil Duval's claims that billionaires are billionaires see humans as livestock. I believe that is the truth. Meek Mill does not. Essentially, they went a little bit back and forth on Twitter about this. Meek Mill said, I have some billionaire friends of all races, of all types, and they don't see things that way. And here's what I'll say about that so that we can move on from it quickly. Just because someone doesn't treat you like what the perception of them is or what the truth truly is, doesn't mean that that's not what's happening. To me, if you're a billionaire and world hunger hasn't been solved, homelessness hasn't been solved, poverty hasn't been solved, there's a problem, right? Because in reality, billionaires have the ability to change these things and they make the active choice not to. So that's what I'm going to say about that. I'm going to move on so that we don't get off track and start talking too much about that in general. So next up, we're going through industry updates. This is always the longest section, so strap in. First up, we have Rosie, the first virtual influencer in Korea, devised by a content creation group called Citus X, is set to kickstart her career as a singer later this month. She is a virtual star who was first known through a public TV commercial for insurance. And this grabbed a lot of attention to the MZ generation. The company's experimental attempt turned out to be a success, as we can see. The commercial itself was able to go up to over 11 million views on YouTube. Rosie herself has more than 110,000 followers on her Instagram and has recently been making headlines after an appearance on TVN's ongoing series, Dr. Park's Clinic. Very, very interesting. I'm sure you guys have seen that one virtual influencer, Michaela. And this starts a very interesting conversation about virtual performers in general. Now, do I think it's a little scary? Yes. But do I know that this will be the love of the music industry's life? Yes. Virtual performers have something very distinct about them that no other type of performer that is a human being can fulfill. They have no problems. There's no possibility for drug habits, for mental health crises. They don't even have average life stresses and problems. They're a completely moldable thing that will never give their management any problems. And on the business side of things, that's what more could you ask for? Because the problem, the biggest problem that the industry has with musicians is honestly that they are human beings, that they have their own problems, that they have opinions on things, that they have the ability to. So we're going to see more of it. We've already seen it happen. But it's definitely going to increase and we're going to see more of it because, as I said, the music industry, it wants this, and in some capacity it needs it. And I say that because I think that a lot of artists are moving away towards your average 360 deal or your standard deal, and even wanting to work with labels in general. I think the more that you learn about the industry and the more that you realize that especially with the internet and a good team, you can do everything that a label does for you on your own. If you're able to raise the capital, if you're able to, which really, in my opinion, is all about growing your fan base. Because as soon as you have a large enough fan base that are actual fans, not just people who are somewhat interested in you, fans as in people who will spend that $50 a month to be in your fan club, or spend $100 on a ticket to see you, spend, their hard-earned money on the things that you release. That can be, the start to everything, because it really is all about money, and resources, right? That's what a label is. So if you have the ability to create a strategy that does that for yourself, there's a lot of riffraff that can be taken out of the picture. So moving on, we have John Glass, Senior Vice President and Head of Digital Legal Affairs at Warner Music, along with Asadir McMullen, the Executive Vice President of Business and Legal Affairs at Universal Music Group, have both joined the board of directors for Sound Exchange. So pretty cool. We just have some new people who are already in positions of power coming into different positions of power. We have the worldwide online music education industry expected to reach $421 million by 2027. I think that's a great thing. I was just on the phone with my Grammy U mentor, and we talked a little bit about this, making sure that artists get into the habit of educating themselves, regardless of what your passion is. And just as a human being, you need to continue to have the want to grow, to have the want to learn, because there's no way that you're ever going to get better if you don't have that hunger. So it's very important to maintain that, and do the research so that you're finding the right information or the right people to learn from. And I'm very happy about this statistic, because I think it's very much needed, and I'm very, very happy about it. So next, we have delays in vinyl manufacturing are, hindering the music industry worldwide. Pressing plants, many of them antiquated or shut down altogether during the heydays of CDs, have now been maxed out due to the renewed popularity of 12-inch LPs. Vinyl has been talked about a lot in this past couple years because of this, and it's kind of a surprise to me that it bothers me that the industry has not seen this and taken the right action. To me, as soon as you see that, not even that vinyls are upticking in sales, there's a whole culture surrounded, first of all, just in terms of antique and that vintage lifestyle, which then goes into people loving and buying vinyl, regardless of if they even listen to it, but loving and buying vinyl. And it bothers me that the industry didn't really take notice of that and immediately go to manufacturers and say, hey, we need to pick up the pace, especially because, as just stated, a lot of pressing plants and manufacturers were completely shut down because vinyls became to be seen as obsolete. But as we know, that's really not the case anymore. So definitely something to think about, especially for the artists out there, in terms of, does your fan base fit into that category of people who enjoy vintage products? Are they people who you would think would like vinyl? Because in general, physical music, CDs, vinyl, hard drives, any of those things have an immensely large profit margin, especially compared to streaming. There's no way that you can make more money on one stream of a song compared to one sale of something physical. Exactly. The collector aspect 100% plays into it. There are a lot of people who have collections of vinyl of hundreds and even thousands of records that do not listen to them, but they have them because it means something to them, And that is definitely where that collector aspect comes into play. But as I was saying, definitely think about if that is something that your fan base would be interested in, because it is a huge opportunity for revenue, and that's kind of all what we're looking for, right? So, moving on, we have Encore raising $9 million in funding to enable a middle class of music artists, letting musicians create live on augmented reality shows where fans can pay as little to 10 cents per clap. This was co-founded by Kid Cudi, with the idea behind Encore being to allow artists to create mobile AR shows and get paid directly through micropayments. This was a statement given by CEO Jonathan Gray at an interview with VentureBeat. So this is super cool, and I love the fact that they added in a middle class of artists being marketed and uplifted. There is definitely that in existence. There are definitely middle class artists, people who are supporting themselves, but who are not stars, we can say. I'm sure that you've seen them. If you go to a club that plays live music and things like that, they likely are supporting themselves through gigging, which I would consider a middle class artist. But bringing that into the virtual space is very, very cool. And I also like the concept of them doing things, paying for claps. What it reminds me of are like the gifts on TikTok, where you don't necessarily pay to be there, but if you want to show your appreciation for someone, you can send them a gift, so something like that, or even on Twitch, where you can send things and stuff like that. So I think it's really cool that they're integrating that into the music space. I'm sure that we'll see more of it, of course. A lot of the times I'm talking a lot about Web3 in these podcasts because the industry, in general, the world is shifting, but the industry is catching on very quickly, as it needs to. Moving on, this is super, super awesome. Snoop Dogg says in a recent Fortune article that Death Row will be an NFT label. If you did not know, Snoop Dogg recently acquired Death Row Records, which is a huge, monumental thing. And I'm sure that he's feeling amazing right now. But it's very cool to see that he's not just taking Death Row and running with it. He's taking Death Row and he's molding it into something new. And I think it's going to be really cool to see what comes out of it. And I know 100% it's going to be a moneymaker. 100%. Next up, we have Jeremy Verunik, promoted to president of A&R at Capitol Music Record. So if you're looking for an A&R and you want to work at Capitol, find out who his reps are and pitch yourself. We have Universal Music Group being the first major music industry company to ink a partnership with Curio, a non-fungible token platform focused on entertainment brands. Under this deal, Curio will serve as a dedicated global outlet for future officially licensed NFT projects from UMG's record labels, operating companies, and recording artists worldwide. This is, once again, not surprising. As I said, we talk about Web3 a lot in this podcast because that's a lot of what the industry is updating itself with. And it's not surprising. None of this is surprising, but I'm excited to see what comes out of it. UMG, as you should know, is one of the big three, is the biggest label, major label in the industry. And we're going to see a lot come out of this, a lot of content, and a lot of money being made. With that, we are going to move on to Bandzoogle, now powering more than 60,000 websites for musicians who have used its toolkit to sell more than $88 million in music, merch that is all 100% commission free. Now, you do have to pay for Bandzoogle. I want to put that out there, but it is a great platform for independent artists and artists in general, to host their websites, especially if you're not someone who has a web developer on your team or has the ability to readily find and pay one, Bandzoogle is a great option. Very user friendly, very easy to use, very straightforward, and kind of gives you everything that you need in one place very easily. And it's great that they don't take a commission, but once again, you do have to pay for Bandzoogle. I want to put that out there just in case any of you are interested in going and utilizing it. Yeah, great stuff though. Both of my live streams have poor connection right now, which is not fun. Moving on, we have ASM Global, the world's leading producer of entertainment experiences, venue management, and event strategy, and the International Live Music Conference today announced a new partnership, or not today, the date of the article being released. But they announced a new partnership to dramatically expand the music business conference's Aaliyah Dan Swift bursary scheme, which promotes and encourages the next generation of young executive talent. The bursary scheme will see 30 young executives given a place at this year's ILMC, the world's leading live music conference, taking place in London in April of 2022. If you would like to hop on a flight, head over to London. Go ahead. I'm sure that they also have a live stream capacity on this as well, but I'm very happy with seeing this. There's a lot of young people in this industry, given. Not all the time are they in large positions of power or given a huge level of respect. So I'm very happy to see this. If I can, I'll definitely be tuning in, and let me know if you guys do attend, or if you guys tune in. Definitely let me know how it was. I would love to talk to you about the experience. Finally, on the music industry updates list, we have Dan Rutman joining Spotify as head of music creators partnerships. He was previously head of business development at TuneCore, a role that he was promoted to only in January of 2022 from his previous role as the director of US and Canada, which he was appointed to May of last year. The main reason I wanted to put this in, not only because it is an update on who is doing what in the industry, he was able to be promoted grand scale to 3 positions in 3 years. If that isn't amazing, I do not know what is. And I can 100% tell you that his role at TuneCore is what draw Spotify's attention to him and made them pay a pretty penny for him. So very cool, and I would say take notes in terms of the industry side of things and how that works. It's also a part of jobs in general. The more that you're in demand for a position at any large companies, other large companies are gonna want you on their team. With that being said, we're gonna talk a little bit about live music. So back in 2019, Coldplay made a public statement that they would pause their touring in order to find ways to be more environmentally conscious and sustainable. Before I continue with this, if you don't already know, touring is terrible for the environment for a multitude of reasons. Sound pollution is one of them. The travel that it costs is terrible for the environment. It is one of, if not the most harmful things in the industry to the environment. So what Coldplay is doing is really interesting. Because their next tour will be partly powered by a dance floor that generates electricity when fans jump up and down. So they're utilizing the literal energy of their fan base to power their venue, which I think is super cool because it's also kind of like reflective, because the fans and their energy is what makes it happen in the first place, right? So for it to be literally be what is powering the venue, what is powering the lights, powering the sound systems, is very, very cool, and revolutionary, absolutely. And I hope that this kind of out of the box thinking is able to be translated to other artists in live music, because it's definitely needed. Anything that we can do to kind of offset our carbon footprint or whatever is always a stride towards better things. So very cool to see that. And once again, I hope that it inspires more folks to do similar things. Next up, we have Earth, Wind, and Fire taking the stage at the Rose Music Theater in the Heights, Thursday, July 28th. So if you're interested in that, definitely go over to the links for the news stories. You can find out more information and go see Earth, Wind, and Fire in person. Finally, we have Gunna set to perform at the Ingenuity Cleveland during NBA All-Star Weekend. Cool stuff. We have some artist accomplishments up next. Do We Have a Problem storming at number 1 on the Billboard Hot R&B and Hip Hop Song charts. Yeah. It has also been the genre's top-selling song and most streamed track for the week. Does not surprise me. You know how the Barbs are, and I want to throw this in there since I'm talking about Barbs. Barbs are a perfect example of what an actual fan is. We have a misconstrued version of what a fan is. A fan is not someone who listens to one of your songs, or even one album. A fan is someone who pretty much watches your every move, who invests, who takes the time out of their day to figure out a way to purchase whatever you're selling, and who does everything that they can to help you in your career. Barbs are those people. If you've ever met one or if you've ever interacted with one online, you know exactly what I'm talking about. These people will do absolutely anything necessary to make that number 1 hit on a chart happen, to make that most streamed song of the week happen. And it's beautiful to see, and I think everyone should study Barbs if you're interested in fans in general. If you want fans, you should be studying them, and you should be trying to convert the people who support you into people like that. Nikki she's amazing, but anyone who is in the industry would be nothing without their fan base. And it's just the truth. Next up, we have Mooney Long's Hours and Hours hitting number 1 on the Hot R&B songs charts. Very good for her. She's been in the industry for a long time, writing music for, we've heard a lot of her music already, but she wrote it, not perform it. Barbs are fans of Nicki Minaj, Dan. But once again, congratulations to Mooney Long. It's been great to see how quickly she's been able to gain support and do some really amazing things. We have Eminem celebrating a monumental career achievement with his compilation album Curtain Call, his greatest hits, being the first hip-hop album to spend 500 weeks and counting on the UK charts. Crazy. 500 weeks is crazy, truly, and we can see that because he's the first hip-hop album to do so. And just awesome. Yeah. And next up, we have Antonio Brown signing a $5 million deal to be the new face of TuneCore-backed streaming service Fuego Music. Very cool. Next up, we have only one thing under legal news today. With increased concerns within the music community over a whole new form of music piracy happening via NFT services and the inside of the metaverse, the Italian music industry's digital content protection agency used the recent Salerno Music Festival to announce that it now has a full unit that is focused on monitoring and acting upon unlicensed music activities happening on all new fangled platforms. I think this is very necessary. If you've seen in one of the podcasts that I did, earlier this month, we talked about Lil Yachty suing an NFT platform for using his name and likeness and making a lot of money out of it with no contract with Yachty, with no revenue going towards him. And things like that have to be monitored and taken care of, especially now, because we're not in like the baby phases of NFTs now. We're in like toddler, adolescent phases, so it's very important to start getting some checks and balances on them. I know that it's kind of like an offshoot of cryptocurrency, and that's all, it's all about decentralization and all of that. But checks and balances are extremely necessary to not have things like the situation with Lil Yachty happen. Nobody enjoys having their shit be stolen and not being able to see anything from it. So, with that being said, I think that the US definitely needs to do something similar in terms of, NFT monitoring and licensing handling. Next up, I added this in. We have a viewer opportunity for you guys. CrowdSurf has launched a new career development program. If you're interested in learning about that, once again, find the links in my bio so that you can learn more and apply. We are coming to the close of this. So we have some deals, partnerships, and acquisitions. First up, we have Licked, a company that provides video creators on YouTube, along with other platforms, with access to charts music, has signed a deal with music licensing company Audio Network. So for both of them, it's just expansion, truly, for what they do. We have BMG acquiring the music industry interests of iconic blues singer-songwriter and guitarist Johnny Lee Hooker from his estate. We've seen a lot of acquisitions like this happening lately, so it does not surprise me. And then finally, Spotify has acquired Pod Sites and Charitable to advance its podcasting business. I've talked about Spotify quite a bit on here. But once again, this doesn't surprise me either. They're on the road of continuing to expand their catalog of audio, not just music, but audio. So that's that. Finally, as per usual, I'm going to pay some respects to some folks who have passed this recent week in the industry. So without further ado, we have Lynn Tolliver, who was a Cleveland radio legend credited with putting WZAK radio on the map in the 1980s. We have Steve Salas, co-founder of Chicano R&B band Tierra. And then finally, we have Christina Lee, senior creative producer at Splice. And this is probably the saddest story. For some reason, recently there has been more sad stories in this section. Christina Lee was murdered in her apartment. I haven't read too into the situation, but she was a young executive who had a lot of life ahead of her, and unfortunately, that was taken by another person. So as per usual, I offer my condolences to everybody. It's never fun to talk about these things, but I think it's important to pay the respects. And that is that. That is that. We were able to get through this relatively quickly today, which I'm very happy about. We have been on here about 40 minutes, but that is kind of short for these live streams. Thank you guys all for tuning in. It's greatly appreciated. Like, comment, share, do all that good stuff. And I hope to see you guys next week, next Sunday, probably at a later time than 10 a.m., but we will see. Thank you guys once again for all tuning in, and it is greatly appreciated. Bye-bye. I'm always bad at doing these things. Bye, YouTube. I don't even know if you can see me.